Hi, hello viewers, welcome back to my channel. Once again, this is your Dharanz. In this video, we're going to look at a token-based authentication by using ASP.NET Web API applications. Normally, when we are creating Web API applications for a security purpose, we do authentication and authorization. That can be many kind of tokens, Oauth token, JWT token. Today, we're going to look at Oauth token and how to implement it and what is the use of it. Let's see how we can make it. First of all, before we going to learn how to implement it, we have to learn how the token-based authentication works. For that, a modern token authentication is simply the interaction between the browser and the server, as normal as APIs. But when the when the client hits with credentials or whatever credentials you want to give to get an access token, which you think that's unique, you can provide those credentials to the servers in order to get an access token. For example, the username password is a common credential security that we are using for our applications. So here, to authenticate, we can provide username and password. Normally, we will use it in a login API. Once it hits a server, it will check the username and password with the database or the token. Once it's validated, it will get back to us with the access token. It will provide us an access token. And with an access token, we can send a response which you want to get the data with a barrier token with an authorization. It will check whether the token is valid or not. Once the token is valid, it will give a response with a specific resource for the user. It will get back to us what are the value. For example, if the username password that we are providing, we are checking with the username password and database whether username password is matches, we will send our API to get the access token. Once we receive the access token, we will use the access token by putting authorize for the classes or methods which you have to get the data. For example, API user. If you want to get the user data, you have to authorize this API in order to give a barrier token. Once you given a token, if the token valid, it will send you a data, or else it won't. So in real time, I want to get a data from this API, get data. If I click send, I'll get as authorization has been denied for this request because I have authorized this API. To get the data from this API, I need access token. From where I can get the token? From the login API, I can get the token. For example, if I send a request, I can get the access token here. From the response, I have a retrieve access token. I can take it, go to authorization, put a barrier token, put a token, and click send. We will get the response from the database uh, as we need it. So this is what we're going to implement. Let's get started. First, I am creating one web API project. For that, I'm using Visual Studio 2019, ASP.NET Framework. Next, and the project name, we're going to set as Auth API and providing a project path. Then click create, and we have to select web API, and we should change an authentication from no authentication to individual user account in order to set up API. When you do this in Visual Studio 2019, what does scaffolding do is they have a predefined templates. It will create auth providers, then Oauth startups, and everything will be there. We have to do some tweaks and changes in it, then we are good to go with an authentication. We don't have to do much code in it. So once you change it, click OK, and we can create. Once you create, our project successfully created. Once you created your new project, we have to delete some files which is unwanted for us. First, inside the controllers, let me zoom in. inside the controllers, the account controller, which you don't need. These are all the codes which came from scaffolding. We don't want need this, so I can delete it. And inside the abstract, you can see startup.auth.css. We are gonna modify it, so we can delete that too. Now we are good to go. Let me rebuild this to check whether we have any other errors or not. One fail. We have one error. We have an error on configure app that we're going to clear it in a minute. No issues. Now, under the project itself, we have a file called startup.cs. In the startup.cs, we're going to modify some of the codes. That first, inside the configuration function, we have to implement a configuration auth provider, and we have to import necessary namespace. Once you press Control and dot, you can get the suggestions for the quick fixes, and you can select one of the suggestions which you think that could solve a problem. You can do it. And configure auth provider comes from another file that we're gonna implement in a minute. Then we have to create another function called configure auth provider, and these all will go off when we create it. So let's say the startup file has been done. So here, if you see, the startup file shows as the error that there is no RMN given corresponds, because this application OAuth provider is created by the scaffolding. We have to do some changes in it in order to get rid of this error. So we have done with our startup.cs. Now we can go to OAuth provider. This is the file which is giving us an access token, which is helps to giving us an access token. It hits a server and validate to get the access token. For that, we can delete all of this code. Just inside the application OAuth provider, we can create a function called validate client authentication. Then we have to create another public function called great resource owner credentials. This is simply gets the credentials. Once it matches, it will say, or else it will give provider username password is incorrect. We can customize this messages as well. So once done, we're done. After that, we are mainly going to use this values controller. For example, this is a value controller that I'm going to show you how to work with different authentications. For example, the login function doesn't require any authorization in it. Once we are hitting the login API, it should check in the database whether the username password are matching or not. Once it match, it will bring up, we will send that function to get an access token. Once we receive an access token, we will send that access token to any other functions that we want to retrieve the data. For that, to retrieve access token or approach access token, we need two models. One is a login class model, which takes our username, password, or necessary informations which we want to make that as a unique thing. And we have to create a basic API response. This will be helpful for the all API applications. For that, under the models folder, let me create one class, the class called API response. Once click add, this is an API response, and I have certain properties in order to get a response. This is common for all the API applications. So a code, status, message, error message, response. Whatever object we are about like to return, we can return the response. If there is error, it goes there. As you see, you can, Then I need a login class, which is base class for all the authentication. At the moment, we require login credentials or sending to that to get an access token. We're gonna hit the class. So as base this API response, we can create this. And inside in the values controller, it directly calls API controller. Now, where are we generating access token? Inside a controller called base API controller. That base API controller will inherit this API controller. In controller, right click, add. I'm creating controller. The controller call base API controller. That base API controller takes API, inherits API controller, and we have to set a common function for our responses. This is our response API function. It's a common function. We can import this model here. Then we have to validate our username password in order to get the data after once the authentication is done. After that, there is a main function comes here to retrieve access token. This is a function to retrieve access token. To get rid of errors, just click it, click show potential fixes or control plus dot. It will show fixes. Select a first import. Zing. It will clear the error. That's it. Now we can implement this. We can inherit this base API controllers functions into the values controller. Instead of base API controller, instead of API controller, we can click set as base API controller. I gonna create one function. Now we are not going to approach any databases. I'm just gonna hard code the username and password here. So that should be a public. The task should be imported by the threading IHTTP action result. Because our base API response must be IHTTP action result. This is a response API. Once you call this response API by giving API response, we can get a proper response as unique response for all our functions. And I'm setting this login, and I'm calling here a login class from the model, the login class, and it takes API response. Next, inside the try, if login class dot username admin and login class dot password admin, I am letting this function to take an access token, which is API response. We have to throw an API response. The code should be 200, and the response, as I say, response is an object. We can send a response as we wish. At the moment, we don't have to give any responses because in a moment we have to respond our access token to this login API itself. Most of the cases in login, we will check only databases, and another separate functions is used to take an access token. For example, I'm showing both in the same function itself. We can get rid of this. This is enough, as code is 200. And the API response dot response, we have to call get access token from our base API. So get access token, we have to send a whole login class from here to there. That's it. And we got to return API response. The better practice, instead of giving OK, as I already told you, HTTP action result in our base API control itself. So here can give response API. It does the work for us. Inside this response API, you can create as many as responses as you need. Once you set it, that's it. It will work. And this is a login API. It doesn't want any authorize. and I'm gonna set route as well for this as API login, and I'm gonna create another function which requires an access token that simply public I'm setting this as get, and this takes one necessary object called a headers, a class, HTTP request headers. This headers will use to get an access token, or if you are about to use access token anywhere else in your applications, you can use it, and from this we can take this access token. You can use it or not use it. As of now, I am commenting it, and I'm gonna create a response. Since we are not gonna approach any database for this, it has ID and username, that is admin, and password. Password must be sensitive. We don't have to show any password to anyone. That's it. And the same thing goes in here. Code, as I already told you, we can do a response. The response has to be resp. Instead of giving this, create as API response and return this API, return response API. Inside response API, we can give this API response. That's it. And one more thing, I would like to show you this. Whenever I create an API project, I will create a CARS origin policy. Most of the cases we are experiencing when we are developing application, front-end application from the server or API, we never gonna get a similar kind of never gonna get a result from a similar kind of protocol. So it will show a CARS origin. Get rid of the CARS origin when you create a web API function project. You can directly go to this web API config under the app start and implement a CARS origin policy, which never ask you for any allow headers. To do that, right click on the project, manage NuGet packages. In the NuGet packages, in a browse, you can browse as cars. Once you see cars, you can have a two cars Microsoft plugins. One is Microsoft ASP.NET on the cars and Web API cars. You can install both. Once it's installed, the next one, Web API cars, you can install that too. Once it's installed, go to Web API config.cs. Inside Web API config.cs, you have to import web.http.cars in the namespace, and in register where cars is equal to new enable cars attribute. The enable cars attribute takes the first one is origins, headers, and methods. We should enable or star. That's it. And inside the config dot enable cars goes the cars object. That's it. Now, if you are developing any front-end applications from and getting the data from this API, you don't have to worry about any cars object policy. Save. Once you save it, let me build an application. If everything looks good, we are good to go. and everything will succeeded. Now we can run our application. Our localhost is 44334. Let me copy it. In our postman, I am creating host. Our URL is from our application. Values controller. Inside the values controller, API login is our URL. The body, username, I'm setting it as admin to get an access token. Password is also admin. This is cool, but I just missed something. Let me stop the application. So this is a root. Here we didn't give any authorized, so it will work like a charm. But under the values, under the get function, we have to mark this as an authorized function to get a data, or else it will give a data without having any authentication itself. So let me create a route, save it, run it. Once we run, under the API, we could see our API is here, API login data. Now here I have an API login. I'll show you. Now I didn't give authorized in get function. So what happens if I not give authorized? It will work as normal function. So copy, go, get data. Once I hit it, it will give me a response without having any authorization. It shouldn't be done. So for that, can stop it. We have to check this says authorized. Once you say this is authorized, it can be for a single function or it can be for the whole class itself. A project run again. Now in the get data, I'm sending request, which is so it'll show authorization has been denied for this request. Perfect. From the login, I'm sending a request. It has given me a response as an access token. I'm copying it from our get function in authorization, Barry token. I'm replacing a Barry token, then click send. Now we got our data. In here, if I say admin123 send, it will not give any responses. The response will be null. Maybe you can optimize this, customize this login authentication function as you need. That's all about it, guys, for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, please click the like button and comment if you have any questions. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to get my latest video updates. Thank you.